welcome to Crime Time 911. You know that feeling when you pull a little paper tab off your McDonald's fries, just hoping that this might finally be your lucky day? Maybe it says free fries. Maybe it says play again. But every now and then, there's that glimmer of possibility. What if it says $1 million? For decades, McDonald's Monopoly has been one of the most addictive marketing promotions on the planet. It mixed two of people's most favorite things, fast food and the thrill of chance. You could order a Big Mac and, in theory, win a vacation, a car, or even a fortune. But what if I told you that for more than a decade, that game, the one millions of people played in total faith, was rigged? That the $1 million winners weren't random at all, but handpicked by a small, secret network of people who turned America's favorite game into their personal gold mine. This is the story of the McDonald's Monopoly scam, a web of greed, deception, and betrayal that ran right under the noses of one of the most powerful brands in the world. Let's roll back to the mid-1980s. McDonald's is at the height of its corporate glory. Golden Arches, Happy Meals, Ronald McDonald, the works. But, like all massive brands, they're always looking for the next big thing to keep customers coming back. Enter the McDonald's Monopoly game. It was genius in its simplicity. Borrow the concept of Monopoly, one of the world's most recognizable board games, and turn it into a fast food lottery. Customers could peel off stickers from their food packaging, revealing instant prizes or property names. Collect all the properties in a color set, and boom, you win a major prize. The game first appeared in 1987, created by a marketing company called Simon Marketing, which handled the logistics, printing, and prize distribution. It was wildly successful. McDonald's saw massive spikes in sales every time they brought it back. People loved the idea that a simple lunch run could change their lives. But as with most things that involve luck and money, someone eventually found a way to break it. Meet Jerome Jacobson, better known as Uncle Jerry. If this story were a movie, he'd be the guy you least suspect at first. Middle-aged, balding, polite. He wasn't some master criminal or mob boss. He was a former police officer who worked in security. And that background, ironically, is what got him the job that would put him in the center of one of the strangest corporate scandals in history. Jacobson was hired by Simon Marketing as the head of security for McDonald's promotions. His job was crucial. He was responsible for overseeing the distribution of the game pieces, especially the high-value ones, the $1 million stickers, the cars, the vacations, all the big-ticket prizes. Think about it. The entire integrity of the game rested on his job. If those pieces got into the wrong hands, the whole system would collapse. So Jerry had access to things that nobody else did, including the winning pieces themselves. At first, everything seemed fine. Jerry took his role seriously. He wore his uniform proudly, traveled to the secure printing facilities, and personally escorted sealed envelopes containing winning pieces. But as the years went by, temptation began to creep in. It started small. According to FBI reports, the first theft happened almost by accident. During a trip to the printing plant, one of the seals broke and Jerry pocketed a game piece worth $25,000. And from that moment, everything changed. He realized how easy it was. No one was watching him closely. He was the man meant to stop theft, the last person anyone would suspect. That first stolen piece was just the beginning. Over time, Jerry developed an elaborate scheme. He would secretly steal high-value winning pieces and hand them to trusted people, friends, family, acquaintances, who would then win the prize and share the proceeds with them. It became a quiet empire of fake winners. But Jerry was clever. He knew that if the same circle of people kept winning, McDonald's might notice. So he expanded. He started distributing winning pieces to people all across the United States, creating what was essentially a criminal network of selected winners. These weren't always career criminals. Some were regular folks drawn in by the promise of easy money. To keep things secret, Jerry used intermediaries. One key figure was Gennaro Jerry Colombo, a member of a Florida family with mob connections. Colombo had ties to organized crime and helped Jacobson distribute tickets in exchange for cuts of the winnings. Now, this scam had gone from one man pocketing game pieces to a full-blown underground operation involving relatives, friends, and criminals. Between 1989 and 2001, they siphoned nearly $24 million in fake winnings, all while millions of Americans kept peeling their stickers believing they had a fair shot. Now, you might be wondering, how could something like this go undetected for more than a decade? Well, that's where it gets interesting. McDonald's had no idea. They trusted Simon Marketing, and Simon Marketing trusted Jerry. Every game piece was printed with strict oversight, and McDonald's ran internal audits that looked legitimate on paper. But there were small signs something was off. For instance, statistically, some regions were seeing more winners than others. Several major prizes were claimed by people in southeastern US, particularly Florida, not exactly random when you consider Colombo's crew was based there. Then there were patterns in the winners themselves. Some shared last names, addresses, or phone numbers connected through family members. Still, none of it raised enough red flags until the FBI got an anonymous tip, and that's where things started to unravel. In early 2000, the FBI received a tip from an anonymous caller claiming that the McDonald's Monopoly game was being rigged. The caller said that someone on the inside was stealing winning game pieces and distributing them to others for profit. At first, the tip sounded wild, a rigged fast food sweepstakes. But when agents looked into it, the patterns don't lie. They decided to open a full investigation, codenamed Operation Final Answer. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because the FBI was also investigating another high-profile fraud show at the time, the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire scandal. But that's another story. In this case, the FBI realized quickly that to catch whoever was behind it, they needed proof. Real proof. So they went undercover. The FBI decided to stage a sting operation. They started tracking down winners of the past McDonald's Monopoly prizes and interviewing them. Some cracked under pressure and admitted they hadn't actually won legitimately. They'd been given the winning tickets. Agents also set up recorded phone calls, fake sweepstake confirmations, and hidden surveillance on several suspects. Their main goal? Find out who was giving these winners the tickets. The deeper they dug, the more one name kept coming up: Jerome Jacobson. By 2001, the FBI had pieced together enough evidence to connect Jerry's network of false winners and middlemen. They planned a coordinated arrest operation. On August 22, 2001, dozens of agents moved in across multiple states. In one sweep, they arrested more than 50 people connected to the scam, including Jerry himself. When the news broke, it was chaos. McDonald's, one of the biggest brands in the world, suddenly found itself in the middle of a fraud scandal involving its own game. The irony? McDonald's hadn't done anything wrong. They were victims too. They had trusted Simon Marketing to run everything, and Simon Marketing had trusted Jerry. But to the public, the lines blurred. People started asking, was McDonald's in on it? To protect their image, McDonald's announced a new giveaway: $10 million in prizes for real customers, and issued public statements about cooperating fully with the FBI. Behind the scenes, the company severed ties with Simon Marketing immediately. For Jerry, though, the jig was up. So picture this. It's 2001. Jerome, Uncle Jerry Jacobson, is sitting across from federal agents in a quiet interrogation room. On the table, a stack of documents, phone records, bank transfers, and those telltale winning game pieces. At first, Jerry tries to keep his cool. He's been running this game for years without a hitch, but the FBI, they've done their homework. They have confessions from people who took his tickets. They have surveillance. They even have recorded conversations. Eventually, Jerry breaks. He admits to everything: stealing high-value game pieces, distributing them through his network, and taking kickbacks from the winners. And what's wild is that he doesn't even try to deny the scope of it. He just sighs and says something along the lines of, it got out of hand. It's like he knows the game's over, literally and figuratively. To understand how Jerry pulled this off, let's break down the mechanics for a moment. Because this wasn't some slapdash con, it was methodical, careful, and deeply embedded in the system. Simon Marketing had extremely tight security for printing the winning Monopoly pieces. They were printed at a secure facility run by Dittler Brothers Printing in Georgia. These were the same kind of facilities used to print state lottery tickets. Each winning piece was sealed, tracked, and supposed to be handled only by a select few people, one of whom was Jerry. When the game pieces were transported to McDonald's regional distribution centers, Jerry was supposed to ensure that they weren't tampered with. But he had a clever trick. See, the envelopes containing the high-value pieces were sealed with tamper evidence tape. Jerry figured out that by using a tiny blade and some glue, he could open and reseal the envelopes without leaving any visible damage. He'd sneak the real winning pieces into his pocket and replace them with worthless ones. Then, when the shipments went out, everything looked normal. From there, he'd hand the genuine winners to people in a circle. And here's where it gets a little darker, because not everyone in his network really knew what they were getting into. Jerry rarely gave the tickets directly to the final winner. He almost always went through intermediaries. One of the most notorious was Gennaro Colombo, who I mentioned earlier, the Florida mob associate. Colombo became Jerry's bridge to the underworld. He brought in relatives, friends, and even strangers willing to pose as legitimate winners in exchange for a cut. They'd usually agree to split the prize 50-50 with Jerry or whoever gave them the piece. For example, a person might win $1 million, receive $50,000 up front, and then pay the rest in installments after McDonald's issued the checks. Some people used fake names. Some even flew to different states to claim prizes to make it look random. To keep things believable, Jerry made sure not to flood any one area with too many winners. He kept detailed notes: who got what, when, and where. It was like a business, only built entirely on deception. As the FBI built their case, they realized just how wide the net was. Over 50 individuals were implicated, from small-town winners to people with connections to organized crime. Some didn't even realize how serious the situation was. FBI agents went undercover as McDonald's prize department officials, posing as people calling to verify winnings. They'd record conversations, analyze inconsistencies, and cross-reference everything. Some of those calls are in the public record now, and they're chilling in their casualness. Hear people nervously trying to sound like legitimate winners, stumbling over details of how they found their pieces. The agents knew the truth, but they needed airtight proof that these people knew the prizes were stolen. In August 2001, Operation Final Answer came to a head. At dawn, in multiple cities across the U.S., federal agents knocked on doors, served warrants, and arrested suspects simultaneously. Jerome Jacobson was arrested in Georgia. Colombo's associates were rounded up in Florida. Other winners were detained in states ranging from South Carolina to Texas. McDonald's executive, blindsided by the news, scrambled to issue statements. They had to reassure the public that the game wasn't inherently fraudulent, just hijacked by one rogue insider. For a brand built on family trust, it was a PR nightmare. But here's the ironic twist. Despite the magnitude of crime, McDonald's actually ended up gaining public sympathy. People realized the company wasn't the villain here. They were a victim too. The numbers were staggering. Between 1989 and 2001, Jerry Jacobson and his network had fraudulently claimed more than $24 million in prizes. And that's not counting smaller prizes like cars, vacations, and cash cards. McDonald's launched a massive internal audit and worked closely with federal prosecutors to ensure that every winner was verified from then on. The company also offered new prizes for customers to make it right. But for those who had participated in Jerry's scheme, the consequences were just beginning. By 2002, the case against Jacobson and his accomplices was ready for court. In total, 51 people were indicated on charges of mail fraud and conspiracy. Most of them pleaded guilty, though a few tried to claim they didn't realize the tickets were stolen. Jerry himself pleaded guilty to 3 counts of mail fraud. The court heard how he personally pocketed over $1 million, while his network had collectively taken much more. The judge sentenced him to 3 years and 1 month in federal prison and ordered him to pay back millions in restitution. It might sound light compared to the scale of the crime, but prosecutors said his cooperation and the fact that he wasn't violent played a major role in his sentencing. Others weren't as lucky. Some of the fake winners received up to 1.5 years in prison or probation depending on their involvement. The trial didn't just end a crime, it sent shockwaves through the corporate promotion world. Simon Marketing, the firm running McDonald's monopoly, was sued by McDonald's for breach of contract and negligence. Simon countersued, claiming McDonald's had unfairly terminated their agreement and damaged their reputation. The case dragged on until 2004 when McDonald's eventually settled. But by then, Simon Marketing had already dissolved. Meanwhile, McDonald's overhauled its entire promotional system. They added third-party verification, secure tracking, and independent audits to ensure that nothing like this could ever happen again. And for customers, the game went on. But the innocence of it, the pure excitement of maybe winning big, was never quite the same. After his release, Jerry Jacobson disappeared from public view. He reportedly lived a quiet life in Georgia. In rare interviews, people who knew him described him as soft-spoken and almost regretful. He claimed he never intended for it to get so big, that he thought he was just helping people out. But, of course, greed doesn't usually stop at good intentions. It's easy to wonder what drove him. Was it the thrill, the money, the power of being the one holding the winning tickets? Maybe it was all of the above. Because what started as one small stolen game piece turned into a nationwide conspiracy. When the story hit the media, people couldn't believe it. How could something so wholesome, a family-friendly fast food promotion, be the subject of an FBI investigation? Headlines called it the Great McDonald's Scam and the Fraud That Fooled America. For months, talk shows, newspaper, and radio stations picked it apart. And honestly, people were fascinated not just because of the crime itself, but because of what it said about us, about luck, greed, and the illusion of fairness. It made everyone think twice about how much we trust the systems we play. Years later, the story found new life. In 2018, the Daily Beast published a detailed article that reignited public interest in the case. The story became the foundation for a 2020 HBO docuseries, McMillions. The series brought the scandal back into the spotlight with the interviews from the FBI agents, McDonald's executives, and even some people involved in the fraud. It was wild, funny, and tragic all at once, showing that truth really is stranger than fiction. People were shocked by just how many layers there were to the scam and how long it took to uncover. And the documentary reminded everyone, sometimes the biggest crimes aren't the ones done in shadow. They're the ones hiding in plain sight. Even decades later, this case still pops up in business schools and marketing ethics classes. Professors use it to talk about organizational blind spots and how companies can have all the right procedures on paper, but still miss the human factor. The lesson: procedures are only as strong as the people enforcing them. And honestly, that applies to everything from global corporations to our own personal lives. Think about how often we assume the systems we rely on, our banks, our apps, our favorite brands, are airtight. We rarely question them until something breaks. When the McDonald's monopoly story resurfaced through documentaries and articles, people didn't just laugh about it, they related to it. Everyone had a moment when they trusted a system and felt let down. Everyone had brushed against temptation. That's what makes the story timeless. A few of the people who posed as winners eventually spoke publicly. Some expressed guilt, others said they were simply naive. McDonald's, for its part, quietly kept bringing the Monopoly game back because, well, people still loved it. In 2025, the game remains one of McDonald's most successful promotions, now run with advanced digital verification. The security measures that stemmed from this case actually became a model for other global sweepstakes. So in a strange way, Jerry Jacobson's crime made future games safer. It forced an entire industry to evolve. This whole saga also fits into a much larger conversation about trust in institutions. Whether it's a lottery, a charity, a corporation, or a government agency, people want to believe the odds are fair. When that faith is broken, the damage spreads far beyond the dollars lost. It hits the core idea of fairness itself. And that's why the FBI, prosecutors, and even McDonald's took this case so seriously. They weren't just chasing a thief, they were defending the idea that regular people deserve an honest chance. Whenever I tell this story, people always ask, how did nobody notice? But maybe the better question is, how often do we ignore small signs because we don't want to believe something we love could be corrupted? Take a second and think about that. Where else in your world do you assume the game is fair? Maybe at work? Online? The McDonald's Monopoly scam is funny on the surface. It's fries and milkshakes and Monopoly boards, but underneath, it's about human nature. We want to believe in luck more than we want to check the fine print. So here we are, decades later, still talking about a fast food sweepstakes that turned into a federal investigation. It's one of those stories that makes you shake your head and grin at the absurdity of it all, then pause, because the moral lands hard. Greed rarely starts as a grand plan. It starts as a tiny rationalization. One small lie that snowballs into life-altering choice. For Jerry Jacobson, that first stolen piece might have felt harmless. For McDonald's, trusting the wrong person seemed harmless too. But add enough harmless moments together and you get a $24 million lesson in oversight and integrity. But here's the silver lining, because every story like this has one. Justice did catch up. The scam was exposed. And McDonald's learned that transparency isn't just good PR, it's survival. And maybe that's why people still love the Monopoly game today. Deep down, we like second chances. We like knowing the system learned from its mistakes. So the next time you're sitting in the drive-thru peeling back that little red tab, you'll know the story behind it. You'll know that luck, for once, is actually luck again. And that wraps up our deep dive into the McDonald's Monopoly scam, a story of luck, loss, and the long road back to trust. Don't forget to follow, like, and share. It helps more people discover these stories and keeps the conversation going. Thanks for listening to Crime Time 911. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always trust your gut.